Well, it's a bit of an understatement if I said I wasn't extremely angry right now. I am so angry right now. Al has officially stolen Laney's heart once again. Just literally stole her heart. I don't know how she's alive. I'm sure they're going to explain eventually. I mean, Anisphia sort of puts it in the idea that, well, she's still technically a vampire. She's lost the magic type, but I guess the assumption is that she still has that blood in her. And so it's still kind of working its magic. So hopefully Anisphia can get her heart back. Like, she looks bad. And they had to show it multiple times. Like, oh yeah, by the way, in case you didn't know, Laney's still over here with a big hole in her chest. Ugh, I can't stand Algard. I don't think I'm ever going to understand him. I think early on people were saying, no, just wait. They'll explain Algard. And I assume the writer was going to explain him. But no, there's got to be a lot more if you're going to want me to like this guy after this point. Like, I absolutely hate this dude. I guess I'll get more into that as we get around to it. But yeah, it's more of an aspect of what you're willing to do for something you see is wrong. And who you're willing to wrong in order to see that happen. And yes, that's a well-wrote character. And the idea that they at least have some sort of thing, and they're not going to do things the way you think it should be done. A villain is always obviously going to do something that's unsettling to you. They're going to do the wrong thing to do the right thing. Do the wrong thing in order to achieve the thing that you think is right. That's a better way of putting it. Opening up the episode, they sort of try to establish the ground base here. This little perspective of Laney with Algard as they're just before this party where Algard is going to call out Ophelia. And what it kind of establishes here, and I guess I read this wrong. I thought the entire Cyan family was commoners and then got appointed to beat nobles. But apparently it's just Laney. Laney was brought in by the Baron and was taken care of. And yeah, from her perspective, she's talking about the aspect of how even though she is a noble now, she's still treated poorly. And this bounces back to Algard, who is sympathizing with her and stating, yes, he knows that's going on. The divide between the nobles and the commoners is too huge. And as he says later, magic is everything, which is what Anisphia is trying to fix. It's like, Anisphia, I was half expecting her to say, look, I'm fixing that. Just give me some time, brother. But no, he knows there's this divide. Now, the odd thing, and I don't know if this is just a bad translation or something, but the odd thing is that later on in the episode, Algard says that he's a commoner. I never got that before. We've seen Anisphia and Algard as, like, I don't know, 4-year-olds, like really young, running around together, and they were super friends. It wasn't until Anisphia had that vision, and then she started getting into magicology and gave up the throne, that the two of them separated. But it's sort of implying that Algard is a commoner, which is odd. And Anisphia is the only one that is true royal blood. The way that he says it, and again, this might be a translation issue, so somebody can correct me if this is just bad translation or if it's something that they're going to reveal later. Don't worry about telling me. But he says specifically that I'm a commoner and compared to you, I'm nothing or something like that. The way the sentence goes, it could, if words were slightly different, it could mean that he's saying I'm a commoner compared to you. But no, it's saying that I'm a commoner and I'm nothing compared to you. So it's establishing he's a commoner, and then is establishing his powerarchy, not saying that his status is the reason for the powerarchy. So anyhow, thought that was interesting. But yes, it is sort of implying that Algard is at least, whether he was a commoner or not, at least he has seen it. He knows this divide exists, and he doesn't like it. And so much emphasis in this episode really hitting heavy on the idea that apparently their grandfather, the previous king before their current father, wanted to fix this. He knew there was a divide there, and he was trying to fix it. And so the way that he was looking at fixing it was actually giving titles to commoners to become nobles. Essentially bringing people up the ladder to get rid of that divide. And it caused a revolt. Several nobles that are currently in play, which we could probably assume Chartreuse is probably one of them. The nobles that were involved are still around, and they revolted against the king. And it was the current king that essentially squelched it, like stopped it. But the flames are still there. And so the point here is that even if he becomes king, it's not going to happen. Like, he's not going to be able to change people's minds. It's still there. Like, people are still aware of it. And if he starts to do the same thing that grandfather did, they're going to slap him down fast. But yeah, following that little brief scene in the carriage, we jump to pretty much Laney, and she's considering all these words that he gave her. That it's going to be a bumpy ride and everything. And still, even then, she's conflicted by this. Still concerned about the fact that she is a vampire. That's the whole reason people liked her. I think even here she's contemplating the idea that even the prince liked her because of it. But I loved Ilya's comment here. Worrying about the future, worrying about this stuff that you can't really touch right now, it's just going to steal away your happiness. You're going to keep thinking about these things that you can't really change right now, and you're just going to be miserable. She's like, what do I do? Well, focus on what you can fix right now. Your maid has made a wonderful tea for you, and it's getting cold, and it concerns her, so you might want to drink it, basically. I thought it was super cute. Very simple. Just focus on now. It's the focus on now thing. Too often it's easy to get concerned about everything else that's happening around you. Sometimes you just gotta stop and just focus on what's in front of you. But yeah, that's when we get two different perspectives, Ilya and Laney, as the place gets attacked and they're going to flee. And then, yes, Algard stops them, shoots down Ilya, and then grabs Laney and shoves his fist right into her chest. I hate him. I hate him so much. I hate Algard so much. I kind of knew that was what he was after. I didn't think that he was going to immediately inject it and it was just going to work. There's so much emphasis put on the idea of how it makes you become a monster. And it's like, all right, we're just doing it now. You just shove it in there and it's good. You don't even have to do all this other stuff. I'm sure eventually it's going to have some sort of side effects and he's going to start changing somehow in the next episode. But for now, it's just like, just shove it in there. It'll work. But yes, from the other perspective is Anisphia still at this meeting of the arcane people and the Ministry of Arcane or whatever. And yeah, Charteau's son is being a little bit too clingy to her, which makes it completely obvious that he's trying to keep her busy while the prince does all what he's doing. But no, I hated this. Like, this is one of those moments where I really I struggle with the power archy system here. And it sort of makes sense in the idea that one of the things that the father said at some point, the king said at some point, was that there is the nobles, and sometimes a lot in these kind of kingdoms, the nobles have they're not royalty, they're not the king, but they're they have enough power. And it only takes so many whispers in certain ears before the nobles can essentially rise up and take over the throne. You don't want to upset the people that have a lot of pull. And if these nobles, like they're kind of insinuating, have a lot of pull, they have to tread carefully. To be very careful about how they handle each situation. But it's still frustrating when you have literally this meeting, this gathering, and this son of a noble is literally putting his hands on the princess. Yes, she gave up her throne, but she's still the princess. She's still the daughter of the king. He is putting his hands on her and screaming that she's deranged and yanking her around. And then once she finally retaliates and throws him to the ground, he calls for the guards to grab her. If I was the knights, I mean, guys, again, the knights could be in on it, probably, because they technically ran to the door very quick the moment they said, "Oh, quarantine the broiling off. We don't know what the sound is." It's just one of those moments where it's like, I want at least somebody to hesitate here. Like, somebody point out, wait, it's the princess. Like, what are you doing? Like, take your hands off it. Like, somebody say something. I know that there's a lot of people, especially a lot of people in this room, that don't like Anisphia. They hate her. She is a heretic. But still, there's an element of like, wait, but princess. Like, but wait, princess. Like, somebody step up and say, get your hands off the princess. Like, a guard? Somebody put a blade to his neck? I don't know. Again, I understand there's a hierarchy system here that the princess is not all powerful, but still, it's a little bit frustrating in that regard. But yes, Tilty steps up and pretty much engulfs everybody after that and pretty much tells her, don't screw it up, Baka. Well, she says, what are you doing, Baka? And then she says, go, and then don't screw it up, Baka. So they love calling each other stupid. But yeah, apparently Tilty's going to be fighting against Charteus, and so that'll be interesting next episode. But yes, Anisphia and Ophelia rush off. The deed's already done. Algard's standing there with the magicite in his hand. Laney's got a gigantic hole in her chest. She looks like she's at death's door, which will make me very curious how they're going to talk this into happening and her surviving. And then yeah, Ilya's not doing too well either. I was hurt. Like last episode, I was madly in love with Lena. Like, I'm like, dang, this girl with the moments the fangs and the eyes showed up, I was like, okay, I like Laney. Suddenly she just bumped up on the waifu list. It kind of just turns into the exchange, like I mentioned earlier, the idea that Algard right now wants to use this power. He's going to become a vampire. And even points out that, hey, Anisphia, you're the same. You needed power. You got it from a dragon. I needed power. I got it from a vampire. We both accepted a monster into us. What's the difference? But obviously the difference here is that Algard is putting people around them into danger, into threat, and going to be manipulating people in the future for his gain. Which is, yes, a noble gain. This idea of destroying this class system, the system where magic is everything, commoners are nothing, they're belittled and treated poorly by the nobles, it's a noble act that he has. He wants to break that. But the problem is the body count that you're creating in your wake. The moment you reach that cool goal and you turn around and you see how many people you took out to achieve that. Was it worth it? Who knows? That's how much you're going to put weight upon the people who died versus the people who will be happier in the future. He literally sentenced Ophelia to death. We don't know. With Laney, she's going to be pretty much sentenced to death. And yes, like Tilty said, the moment that he gains his kingdom, he's probably going to kick out Anisphia. This is a guy that's destroying everything for this thing that he thinks is going to solve the problems. And in the end, the only one that can tell him no is his sister. His sister says, I will not allow... Yes, I gave up the throne. I pushed it upon you, basically. But in the end, I won't stand for a monster to be in the throne. She will not allow him to do this path. She's not going to live in a kingdom where the king, her brother, is a monster. It's up to her to stop her brother's foolishness. It's like, too late for that. Yeah, it's too late. But magic is made of prayers for tomorrow and wishes for happiness for my brother. Yeah, just a goofball. She's absolutely a goofball. In the end, she's still a goofball. But again, that goes in the mindset of Anisphia. Like, she just believes this magic is everything. It is what wishes are all filled with. It's the thing that she always strives for. It's the thing that's her goal, her happiness. This is something that she really feels inside of herself. But yeah, I'm not happy. Again, Laney is so great. And now, again, I don't think they're going to kill off Laney, despite the fact that it looks like she is in, like, death. Like, she looks dead. Like, there should be no reason why somebody can live through that. Heart removed, which, again, they implied that her heart is a magicite. That is her heart. He took her heart. And yes, it sort of explains it in the idea that Anisphia says she's still a vampire. Even though she has lost this magicite, the assumption is that it's still in her blood. And so she's just telling Ophelia, I know the magicite's gone, just do what you can. Just keep her going. Essentially, just throw some heals on her. Hopefully, she'll last long enough that I can get this back. So the question mark is going to become, what's going to happen? I want a redemption arc for Algard. I honestly do. But I really do, I see it going two different directions here. One is that Anisphia is going to stop Algard, and she's going to remove the magicite from him and give it back to Laney. Now, the question mark is going to become, will Algard live after that? Possibly. If he does mutate in a way that he almost becomes big, and then you can see the magicite, and then she takes the magicite, and then he like reverts back and has his heart back or something like that, I could see them having him continue on, and then he can have his redemption arc after that. Because during this fight, they're probably going to yell at each other a lot. You're going to have Anisphia trying to drill into his head that he's doing wrong, that she still loves him, that he could still do the right thing, come back to sister, let's fix things together. Let's change the world together. We will revolutionize it together. On the other hand, this could be sort of the writer's way of kicking Algard out of the picture. He is the sign of trying to change things in the wrong way. She's trying to change things, he's going to change things in the wrong way. He is a lot more brutal about it. He's pushing things, and again, he's leaving bodies in his wake. So this could be the way of getting Algard out of the picture, thus pushing Anisphia back into the forefront. I don't know necessarily we want to do that because we've just established what Anisphia is doing. And if you suddenly make it to where she is the only one to the throne this quickly, it sort of forces her to have to be at the forefront and sort of shifts the tone of the story. They could. I'm not against the writer doing what keeping things in a mold isn't a good thing. So if this does push her into the forefront and gets Algard out of the picture, it's perfectly logical to just shake up the whole story. We establish something, we think we're getting comfortable, and then you throw a wrench in it. It's a good thing. If a writer can do that good, it's a good thing. It's kind of like why I love A Sense of Bookworm so much. Every time we get comfortable in that story, suddenly mine gets shoved somewhere else. And I love that about that story. And they could do that here as well. But yeah, I just don't think Algard's going yet. I think he's going to get his beat down. I think they're going to get the magicite out of him. And then like with Laney, he's just going to kind of recover. But again, that's going to really rely on the idea of, does he still have his heart in there? He's implanted it. Unlike Anisphia, she just had it tattooed. he actually shoved it into his heart. So unless the heart kind of moves out of the way and then it can still grow back once the magicite's out, that's the question mark. And that's probably what's going to happen. Either way, I cannot wait to see Anisphia beat down her bro. Beat that boy down. Wake him up. Wake him up. I have a feeling next episode is going to be extremely emotional, and I cannot wait for it. There's something about a sibling spat that just really hits me hard. So I'm excited for it. And again, I hope Laney gets fixed. I don't want to lose Laney. Anyways, that's my thoughts on episode 8 of Magical Revolution. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you got my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, and membership button down below. I greatly appreciate it, but it supports the channel, and y'all take care.